Hi, it's Alexis, the Avoidant therapist. Today we're going to talk about rebound relationship, and we'll try to answer the question whether rebound always fail. You'll see, as always, is a little bit more complex than what you could read or what you can see online. We need to treat those situations with a lot of nuance because, yes, sometimes rebound relationships succeed. If you are in the situation where you are trying to assess whether your ex's rebound relationship will succeed, yes, it might succeed. And in this video, I'm going to explain and differentiate between the myth around rebound relationship and what really happens. I'll put in the description of this video the study that I'm using that explains the dynamic of rebound relationship. I'll explain everything after the jingle. So here are the common reasons people think rebound relationship are doomed. The first one, there's no time to heal because you don't process the breakup, you don't have time to reflect, to be on your own, and you jump into a new relationship. This relationship is bound to fail. Short-term fix. I often say that when you start a new relationship quickly, it's like using a band-aid because you're not doing the work, you're not learning, you're not healing. Third one, sometimes that's the driver, that's the agenda, is to make the other one jealous. I need to win the breakup. If I start a new relationship, they'll show that I'm winning the breakup or that I'm making them jealous. Superficiality, it's usually when you are attracted to someone, so it's very superficial. And that's why most rebound relationships fail, is because we are attracted by the superficiality, things that we can't assess. We usually realize and start learning about the person after 6 to 9 months of the relationship. This is where we can really assess if that person is the right person for us. So also the last general belief is the speed. If we get back to a new relationship quickly, that implies that's not serious, that's not stable. So all of those things are the things that you might have heard, that I might have said. It's slightly more certain than that, because in some cases, rebounding can be healthy. So maybe if you're right now, your ex is rebounding and you have a hard time dealing with this and you don't feel ready to date, maybe dating could be an option for you. Let me explain in a second. So I want to change the common narrative that rebound fail. And again, I've made a lot of videos about rebounds. It's true that most of them fail, but you have to assess that sometimes healing time varies. For people who have an avoidant attachment style, the healing process is different than for people who have an anxious attachment style, depending on the length of the relationship, right? Some people, they will bounce back quickly after a month, some people after years. The thing is, should you want to heal and move on emotionally, starting a new relationship will boost your mental health. That's a fact. Does it mean that this relationship will succeed? Not necessarily, but that for sure will help you in terms of your confidence and your self-esteem. I'll explain that in a second. Another one is the emotional band-aid. It also applies to non-rebound relationship. When you start any type of relationship after a breakup, it's very hard not to help comparing with the ex, not having this idea of, okay, I'm going to shift from being lonely, single, to being in a relationship. Obviously, what the characteristic of a rebound is the timing the elephant in the room. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's toxic. And I'll explain in a second that, because the study that I use to make this slide doesn't necessarily take into account the seriousness of the relationship. And so that's the thing we need to take into account, and that's why it's very hard to assess. But because you start a new relationship quickly, that doesn't necessarily mean that this is toxic, right? They could be lucky, right? It happens. They could be lucky finding the right partner at the right time. One thing that you can assess is whether they knew the person before. That's a whole different game if that's the case, because they have more insight, more data about the person, which implies that if they start a new relationship with them, they have more certainty about the person they're dating. It's way, way different than if they start dating someone they meet on the dating app, and if they start a relationship with the first one they date. That's a total different dynamic, and it's important for you to assess this. Rebounding with someone you knew for many years has nothing to do with this. Is that you can't really compare with someone you just met for the first time. I'm going to use a controversial term here, is the mate value, to help you understand the rebound and why some of them fail, some of them succeed. The mate value is somehow the desirability. Again, it's very controversial, but just to make a point. She's a 9, he's a 7. So the thing is, when we break up from a relationship, we lower the value of our partner. We expect to date or want another relationship with someone with a higher value, right? When you are the dumpy, obviously your mating value decreases automatically. I've been rejected, so I don't feel like I'm a 9. Okay, I feel like I'm a 4. And usually, if you were to, again, very controversial, but it's just to make a point. if you were rating yourself, I don't know, a 7 or an 8, when you were with your partner, you're fundamentally the same person, but you feel after this breakup like a 4 or 5. So it's very hard for you to trust yourself, to trust that you can seduce someone, to trust that you can date someone, etc., etc. And so rebounding, the aim unconsciously is to restore that self-worth and that confidence. That works as well for the dumper. Okay, there's a lot of uncertainty. When you break up with someone, you assume that you'll be happier on your own, and you assume that the next relationship will be better than what you left. But you're not sure. So that's why you need to get some form of guarantee or certainty. And that's why this element of mating, of mate value is important. It's assessing whether this works at your advantage or not when you start a new relationship. Let me explain. Again, it's very controversial, so let me know in the comment section what you think about this. But relationship succeed when your perceived value is equal, well, your partner's perceived value is equal or higher than the ex. This is where you feel like, oh, they're winning. They're dating someone nicer, hotter, etc., more successful, whatever. And then for this person, that new relationship is better than the other one. That's boosting the self-esteem, right? And that's boosting this idea of like, I want to make it work. And I feel confident in developing this relationship. Again, rebounding is what will help you, is probably the one of the few interventions that can improve psychological health mechanically. That doesn't mean that you're going to have a successful relationship, but that really helps you in terms of the self-esteem and on the confidence element. Again, I'll put the link of the study. It's quite interesting. Now, when relationship fail, is because the new partner has a lower mate value than the ex, than you. So what happens is then, if that's the case, they'll start comparing this new shiny object, which is not as shiny as they thought, and the past relationship and what you had. And so in the case of my clients, what usually happens is because the relationship was so strong, the investment from my clients was so strong that the new rebound can't usually measure with this relationship. And so the person you will find will date someone with a lower mating value. Again, it's very controversial, but it's just to make a point. They will lower their standard. And therefore, eventually, after 6 to 9 months, they realize that's not what I want. When I say mating value, that it's not always a physical. Could be also compatibility, could be about values. It's how we rate what would be the ideal partner for us. And so what happens is that when you have an unsatisfying relationship, what happens is that it increases the attachment to the ex. For avoidant partners, for instance, in the book Attached, they mention that this idea of phantom ex. When an avoidant starts a new relationship, they will idealize the past relationship because the pressure from the relationship is gone. From the past relationship is gone. And so the tension from the need for intimacy, commitment from this new relationship will pull them back. And while they pull back, they will actually start reflecting on their previous relationship. So it's important to understand this mechanism. But it's also important for you to assess this mating value. It's extremely subjective, right? It's not something that has a strong scientific value in the terms of you don't have any studies measuring the mating value, but it's like people, we like to rate and compare ourselves. So you know what I mean when I say mating value. So why rebounds get a bad rap? First of all, the false belief that healing must take time. It really depends on people. One thing for sure that accelerates the healing process is the people who are around you to support you. I'm not only saying therapists, but your social support and maybe your partners, your dates, your love life. There's an element of hurting the ego when you see someone dating, it feels like a rejection, right? So we don't want to see this. Around the ego as well, of the defense of the ego. When you label this relationship as doomed, it's helping you, right? You feel more confident. You feel like, okay, they're not replacing me. That's protecting your self-worth. But that's not always true. Again, you have to be quite nuanced in how you approach and assess the situation. And obviously, there's a social bias, rebounds seen as shallow or insincere. That's not always the case. Most of the time they are, but that's not always the case. So we need to be balanced in how we approach rebound relationships. Not all rebounds fail. And it depends primarily on the compatibility, not the timing. My view, it's more statistical, is that it's very hard to find the right partner, or at least a partner who will compete in terms of mating value in a short period of amount of time. The same way it probably took you months or years or different relationships to finally settle and be in a relationship with your ex. That's my view in terms of statistically, it's less likely, but it can happen. So it's really about the main value and the emotional readiness. Some rebounds, so you'll see, I'll put the link of the study. Some rebounds succeed. And most rebounds help with the mental health. If your ex is dating, he'll probably feel better than you are. That doesn't mean that this relationship will succeed, but they'll feel better then. If this relationship fails, they will have no other choice than reflecting. But the emotional impact it will have on them will be not as strong as right now you are in terms of you being on your own dealing with the breakup. The thing you have to understand about rebounds is sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. It really depends on the situation. If you're confused about your situation, want to pick my brain, have a look in the description. There are links to book a session with me or Elizabeth. If you have any questions on your situation that you want to ask, feel free to leave a comment. Also, feel free to subscribe and like. It does help me as well to promote my content online, and I would really appreciate your support. I'll see you next time. Take care.